Our first story is coming from Seattle. 8 months after the death of Jahnavi Kandula, the Bodycam video of Daniel Auderer has gone viral. He was the Seattle police officer. The officer can be heard saying that the young woman's life had limited value and would be paid off with just $11,000 check. An investigation may have been launched into this horrific event, but it also reflects the sheer insensitivity with which cops view Indians.
She went up on the hood, hit the windshield, then when he hit the brakes, flew off the car. But she is dead. No, it's a regular person. Yeah, just write a check. Yeah, $11,000. She was 26 anyway. She had limited value.
Shocking body-worn camera footage from January.
She was in a crosswalk.
Seattle police officer Daniel Auderer laughing at the death of Indian student Jahnavi Kandula, who had just been killed after being rammed by his colleague Kevin Dave's car. According to report, Dave was driving his vehicle at 74 miles per hour when his vehicle struck and killed Jahnavi Kandula, who was just 23. Auderer was sent to evaluate whether Dave was impaired. An investigation has been launched into the horrifying events. The recording was released by the Seattle Police Department on Monday. The department said it would not comment on the matter until the Police Accountability Office concludes its investigation into the incident.
Joking about how much her life might be worth, even if he was mocking an attorney, is just really heartbreaking and shocking to hear.
A vigil was held for Jahnavi in the week of a collision. Initially, Auderer reported the officer was driving his car at 50 miles per hour and was not out of control. However, a police investigation found that the car was at 74 miles per hour when it hit Jahnavi. The cause of death was multiple blunt force injuries. Jahnavi, a native of the Kurnool district of Andhra Pradesh, was a student at the Northeastern University campus in South Lake Union and was on track to receive a master's degree in information systems this December. That dream will sadly never become a reality. Bureau Report, NDTV.
And how are students in US looking at this brutal killing clearly now? Lakshay Goel is an Indian student in Florida. We also have Anjali Murthy joining me from New York. Lakshay and Anjali, thank you so much. A regular person just write a check. That's what the cop said. It's shocking and shameful. How are Indian students looking at this? How worried are you after this incident?
I mean, it's shocking. I think we hear this footage from someone who's supposed to protect and serve, and that's what's even more shocking is the plight of the international student who comes from India, who comes from overseas, to have this higher education in America, and they want to feel protected by those in law enforcement, and they don't. And so from an NAIS perspective, the North American Association of Indian Students, we're shocked. We are mortified. And as much as we're trying to raise advocacy and awareness, it's hard. When it happened in January, we reached out and are working with and communicating with the Seattle Mayor's office to see how can we build up that trust in the community again. Because the problem is, how can we get these students to trust those who are supposed to protect them? It creates rifts in the community. And as an organization, we are trying to figure out the best way to kind of address that issue. Because the problem is Seattle is a place where students will come.
In the Seattle police that they broke this trust, that it's not just about road rage because this officer was, driving at a speed of 74 miles per hour when vehicles in this particular area are not supposed to be more than 25 miles per hour. Do you think it's more than just an accident? What has been caught on camera is about that she was just a regular person and we can write off a check and it'll be all right.
Well, we don't know. I think when it comes down to the motives of things like this, we do have to look at certain verbiage that was used, and it's interesting to see how this police officer detective seemed to place himself over the value of the person, at least in a value perspective,
yes.
Which is maybe one of the scariest things. and especially from someone who, is a student from an international country. At this point, we don't know what the motive is, but I think in this world that we live in, we cannot rule anything out as of just yet, especially quantifying the price of someone's life. This is never something you want to hear from someone who is supposed to serve.
Tag a value of life. That's very, very disturbing. Anjali, we try to get in touch with the family. They are very distraught. We tried to speak to them. It's difficult for parents to really talk about it. But what has been shared is that she was a brilliant student, just like any student who was there, who would be there, or any student in America who was there on a scholarship. And she was a daughter of a single mother. The mother is a school teacher. This story has so many dimensions to it. But for students like you who are in America, Indian students, what does it actually reflect? Because the point being made by Lakshya about the plight of students, is it about that sheer, arrogance with which the cops look at Indian students?
So thank you so much for having me. I think this is an extremely important topic to be speaking about, and I absolutely agree with Lakshay on the fact that it is about the plight of students. I personally am going to an art school in New York City, which is an epicenter of political, activistic, motivated art. And we talk a lot about the Black Lives Matter movement. We talk about police brutality, and I think it's several kinds of glass ceilings being shattered when we hear the people that are supposed to be protecting us talking about our lives like we're nothing. There's a certain degree of feeling like you matter to a certain extent, and then there's a monetary value that's written off in the form of a check. And to hear something like this, like I grew up in Pune, and to hear somebody from that same demographic going through this and then being laughed about like this is, it's disturbing, of course.
Is it about Indians' life matter? That we matter, students like you matter, you want to be heard. And it should not be about price of a life.
And I think what Lakshay said about it being a matter of value of life is incredibly poignant, because saying that she's only worth $11,000 is completely tone deaf to the reality of what her life would have meant to everybody around her. I think that there's a certain way that people who are not law enforcement could be viewed, and in that case, of course, we don't want to make assumptions, but actions do speak. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I'm going to play that video again, because it's been 8 months after this video has surfaced, and it has certainly given a new twist to the investigation, which is ongoing. The students in US, Indian students in US, you heard from Lakshay and Anjali, they are disturbed. They are seeking accountability. Let's listen into this audio again, and I'll be going back to them for the final comments.
I think she went up on the hood, hit the windshield, then when he hit the brakes, flew off the car. But she is dead. No, it's a regular person. Yeah, just write a check. Yeah, $11,000. She was 26 anyway. She had limited value.
She was 26 and had a limited value. Lakshay, that 26-year-old was perhaps carrying the burden of dreams and expectations of a single mother. And she was there for studies. And this is the way a cop is talking about it. What is the Seattle police communicating to your organization?
Well, first I want to say it's infuriating. To hear this audio is absolutely infuriating. And in terms of our communications with the Seattle mayor's office, as the political outreach lead of this organization, unfortunately, we've been having to do this way too often recently. There's been a lot of events in the Indian community, and the city of Seattle is being slow but responsive, and so we're hoping to find a better answer soon. But listening to this audio is just absolutely it's diabolical. You see a complete disregard for human life in a manner and a magnitude that I didn't even think was possible. Attacks on the community, not even just the Indian community, the international community, the student community. Everyone should be outraged because life should be treated with more value.
Yes, and what is the current status of the investigation, Anjali?
I don't know the exact details of the current status of the investigation. What I can say is that it has been 8 months since this video was taken, and we're only finding out about it now for it to be covered on NDTV. I think this says a lot about the rate at which these kinds of incidents can be covered up, as well as it says a lot about him saying the fact that she was a regular person. I think that's something that just sticks with me. I think it says a lot about the implicit power structures, hierarchies that we say don't exist, but they really do implicitly dictate how our society functions. And I feel for her mother, I feel for her family, I feel for the community, the rich, rich community of international students who come to this country hoping for, a chance at equality, at a professional life. She was probably headed to a really, really bright future. And
all of that has been shattered. And she has been termed as a regular person, just a 26-year-old who had limited value, and the value of her life, according to Seattle Police Corp, was just $11,000. It's shameful. Somebody has to be held accountable, and this officer must be punished. Anjali and Lakshay, thank you so much.